Hi, this is 365801 and this is a reading wrap-up video for the month of October from the 1st to the 31st. Now I really wanted to get a reading wrap-up video done for September, but I was focusing on a lot of different videos and I was quite busy. Unfortunately, time just kind of slipped by and I didn't get it done. So I really want to get one done for the month of October. It's been a while since I did a reading wrap-up video. I think the last one was mid-April. So there is a lot of books, but I'll just focus on October. Now, of course, for the month of October, I did a Buzzword TBR video that was focusing on elements. So for the month of October, it's all element books. And there were a lot of books to choose from that would be covered in the elements. There were a few that I really wanted to get read. And as you can see from the pile in front, I did not get them read. So I didn't read as many physical, but I did read quite a few digital. And I did do a vlog for that. And so I'll just quickly go through some of those books, but if you want more details about what I thought, go check out that video on my October Buzzword vlog. Now, unfortunately, the first thing I technically read or finished or completed in the month of October was Dark Walker, and I did not enjoy this at all. This is a yaoi novel. I started it in September, and then I just finished it on the 1st of October, and I really did not like this. The only good thing about it was Hirotaka Kisaragi's artwork, which of course is stunning. The story itself was very, very poor. I think I gave it a 1-star rating, and that's because you can't give 0. I think the 1 star is just for the artwork. I do not recommend that anyone reads this. Now, one of the next things I read was The Smoke of Lovesickness. This is by Sawako on the Futekia Library, and I also did not like this, so I didn't start off well. The good thing was it was only 1 chapter. It wasn't a very long story. I just really did not take to this either. I think I gave it 2 stars in the end. The artwork was okay. The story was prosaic. I did not enjoy this, so I don't recommend The Smoke of Lovesickness. Nope. I don't think I mentioned this. Maybe I did in the reading vlog. I read a couple of other things. One of them was Pink Heart Jam. I did read a few of the chapters, as well as obviously reading some Pian Pian. So there were a couple of other things I read. I'm up to date now with Pink Heart Jam. This is a series that really does live up to the hype. It was very much something that people were getting excited about, and I love the artwork and I love the story. I think there's only maybe 1 more chapter left to go. I'm really looking forward to it. It doesn't come out till 25th of December, so we've got to wait until Christmas Day, which is fine. That's a nice Christmas present. I love Pink Heart Jam. This is like a 5-star read for sure. Now, during the vlog, I remember distinctly that I was getting distracted. I was waiting for a phone call for a client and they didn't actually phone, and so I ended up reading Will You Marry Me? Which is an Omegaverse story. This is also available on Lesson, I think I read it through, and I did end up just purchasing the rest of the story so I could finish it. It's a nice, sweet, short one. It's about sort of like a young man who works at a matchmaking service to like a sort of omiai type thing where they try to match people up in modern society. It's difficult to meet people, so I'm not sure why we don't have these kind of services more, like personable services. They do have them in like Asian countries, but it's not really something that happens. It's all dating apps and stuff, like do it yourself rather than, hey, I know someone. I don't know. I just really love that aspect of it because he has to keep going, setting up this lovely man with people who the lovely man helps get with the person that they really love. It's just a really sweet little story, and of course you hope that the 2 of them end up together. It's a little bit of drama and a little bit of some exodus, but it is an Omegaverse story, so if you don't like Omegaverse, I would maybe forego this one. But I certainly do not mind Omegaverse. I really enjoy it, and I think I end up giving this 5 stars. I really like it. Now, I also went back to Futekia and read of Little Wet Mice, Passions of Little Wet Mice, and this is by, is it Rihara? I love the artwork. The art style is really lovely, and it's kind of a sweet story. but also kind of a bit disturbing. I don't think the ending really would be something that I would 100% get behind. It's just purely because I'm not sure if there's a degree of forgiveness there. Personally, I'd be like, no way. But the main character does end up with a cutie pie, and I love how that kind of resolved itself. There was a lot of angst there that I'm not really sure. It seems like there's a bit of, therapy would be good for everyone in this story. I think almost everyone needs therapy from the story, which is something to say. But I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. Talking about therapy, Rihara's other work, Public Sex. Because I enjoyed Passions of Little Wet Mice so much, I thought I would read the other Rihara story that's on Fotikia, because it is one that's been kind of hyped a bit and I hadn't actually got round to reading it, and so I thought I would give it a go. And it is very much like a gotcha. And I was kind of surprised by how much of a kind of feel of the gotcha there was. Even to the very last, and I really enjoyed that I love being surprised, because I'm kind of jaded. I feel like I know where stories are going, so when there's a gotcha moment that I didn't see coming, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. So Public Sex was not what I expected it to be, and that's what I really loved about it. So it's very much deserving of its 5 spicy chili rating. But also I would just be careful, because they all need therapy. They all need therapy too. So yeah, Rihara, she does some cute, sexy, but interesting stories. So also another 5 star. Now, a story that I was not particularly enamoured with, and that's 6 Underground. It's very old-fashioned. This is also available on Fotikia. I think it's not quite. It says it's 4 kind of volumes, but it's not really. It's kind of more like 2 volumes of story. And it's the kind of story that I kind of feel like it's the story that people would have read and thought BL was bad because of this. There are a dearth of stories that perpetuated ideas of what the BL genre was, and this is kind of one of them. But also, I'm not mad at it. Because it does make me think, and I do remember, even now thinking about it, it's like, yeah, this made me really think. Like, I did not enjoy reading it, and it wasn't one that I particularly liked any of the characters, and I just wanted the main character to be protected and for someone to help him, and no one did. Not really. And the ending was not really one that I would have gone for, but there you go, not my choice. But it is one that you can read on Fotikia. I don't think I gave it. I think it's like a 2 to 3 star. I would have given it like a 2.5 overall. So yeah, interesting, but not for me. During the vlog, I also read a new title to me, and that was Dick Fight Island Volume 1. This is by Iki Rebun and by Sublime Manga. And I think Dick Fight Island 2, Volume 2, the artwork has been released for that. So I think we can look forward to what happens next with the main character and his flatmate. This was fun. It was silly. It was very smexy. It was nonsensical, but it was actually funny. So I laughed and I thought that was good. But I didn't think it was as amazing and fantastic as it's kind of been hyped to be. So I'm not saying I was disappointed, because I could read that again, today, and I would still find it enjoyable. So it's definitely got rereadability, and I remember it, so it's memorable, and it's very interesting and different, and it's very Iki Rebun, so the artwork and everything is great. But it just wasn't like, oh my god, fantastic, all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles. And I think maybe that's because it's been hyped up so much. You've got to manage expectations in this world. Don't be too excited when everyone else is going mental about something, and you read it and you're like, oh, because there's nothing wrong with it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, but I didn't think it was excellent. So I wouldn't give it like 5 stars because I didn't think it was excellent. But if I'd read it without any of the hype, maybe I'd have come to it and gone, that was banana pants crazy. I love it, and I would give it 5 stars. But because I had a slight expectation, and so I should just not pay attention to other people being like, "Woo, this is great," because I was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be great," and then I was just like, "Yeah, well, it was kind of great," So anyway, Tick Fight Island. It was good, a good solid 4 star, maybe 3 star, 3.5. 3.5, 3 and 3.75. There you go, 3.75, just slightly less than I'll give it up. I'll go to 3.75. There you go. But yeah, it was good. It was good. But that's all I can say. One that I would consider not good was Rose of the Rhine by, is it Megumi Minami? Megumi Minami. I think this is a Kitty Media one. So yeah, it's an out of print one. The artwork on the cover is stunning. The artwork on the back is stunning. The story inside, weird. The mangaka, and I appreciate this. This is a positive point. I appreciate the fact that the mangaka likes Germanic stories from the medieval period that still exist, and has decided to do a BL manga version. But the artwork inside isn't the beautiful, it's kind of being missold. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. No, it's not. And it's supposed to be funny, but the jokes are flat. They fall flat. So it's supposed to be slapstick, comedic, Germanic medieval storytelling. What? None of this makes sense. Except the artwork on the front is beautiful. That's all I can say. So I think I give this 2 stars in the end. It's not great. So yeah, Rose of the Rhine, not one I would recommend. Don't go out of your way to get it unless you can get it for a cheap price. It's not worth much more than, I would say, £5 max. Now I could speak about how bad The Spiral of Sand is. This is a Yuna Aoi work. I could go on and on about how bad this is, but I'm just going to say it's really bad. This is also a 2-star read. I'm giving it 2 stars rather than 1, just because there were aspects to it which I was like, interesting. But mainly because I kind of felt like I was missold. They talked about it being a revenge story, and it was just blah. But there was a twist at the end, and I was quite happy to see that the twist happened. And it's not like I didn't see the twist coming, but I kind of thought that maybe it would be, I thought the twist would be more interesting, and it wasn't. So I was surprised that it was so prosaic. So it was a surprising twist. It was still surprising. It was disappointing surprising, not a happy surprise. But yeah, The Spiral of Sand has all of the tropes that make, I'm going to put in inverted commas, bad BL. The bad BL, assault and then turn to love, which I don't particularly like. And then just sexual assault here, there and everywhere and no acknowledgement of it. Yeah. And sex with no lube or condoms, things like that. That just really bug me. Those little things that really bug me. that date this massively. It's so dated, and it's dated to a time period when I can't say it's a great thing to read. So yeah, I definitely do not recommend The Spiral of Sand. Now, I also read a couple of extra titles that I didn't get around to during the vlog, but I did read afterwards, and these were specifically Buzzword readathon reads, part of my TBR for the October. And so I'll just talk about those 2 now. So I read Shishushu Sakurai's Missing Road. This was originally written in 2006 and then published in 2010 by Drama Queen. And I think I'm gonna have to really start making that list of the worst BLs I've ever read, because oh boy would this go on the list. It is awful. It's so bad. And usually Shishushu Sakurai is pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, pretty bad. But this was horrendous. It was a sci-fi story set in the, like fantasy future. And it was all about, like mind manipulation and wiping memories and rewriting all that with a computer chip in the brain type thing, as well as militaristic iconography, religious iconography. I mean, straight up, one of the characters is just wearing Nazi costume. Like, they didn't even bother redesigning the suit. I mean, I like military suits. I love military, designs. And the other characters got them. But this one character is just there in a Nazi uniform. Oh, God. I mean, and the amount of sexual assault was ridiculous. They even put, and this is quite rare, I never even noticed this before, but they actually, Drama Queen put this at the back saying that they censored a couple of the images because one of the characters gets sexually assaulted when they're young, and it was quite graphically depicted, and so they had to censor it. And it's like, well, we had to censor this. So, but Sakurai sensei said it was okay, and the law says we have to. It's that bad. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like Mommy Dearest, Jesus Christ, Oh, God, it was awful. The worst thing is, put aside the constant sexual assault, the overtones of, the military and mind control and violence and aggression and all that stuff. The story was just bad. It was just a really bad story. So yeah, Missing Road, do not recommend. This is going to go on my list of top 10 worst BLs and the reasons why. Yeah, I'm going to have to start a list because at least the saving grace was that was a quick read, over and done in half an hour. Why? Because none of it made sense. The story did not connect. It jumped around from scene to scene with no cohesion. It was terrible. Awful. So bad. I also read Rising Storm. That's by Yuzuha Ogi, another Drama Queen title. Originally published in Japanese in 2003 and then by Drama Queen in 2005. So this is an old one. And yeah, it's also bad. I'm not sure if I would put it in the same category as Missing Road, as in it's not that bad, but it is still pretty bad. The only reason that I wouldn't give it such a terrible score is because I genuinely laughed out loud whilst reading it, because it is a comedy, and that's its like saving grace. If it's meant to be a comedy and it's meant to be over the top, it's meant to be silly, and it's meant to just be a fun, stupid read, and that's what it is, then I'm guessing, it can't be all that bad. So instead of like a 1 star, it's probably maybe a 2, maybe a 2, like a stretch. The actual proper story, Rising Storm, because there's the main story and then there are 2 short stories in it. So the main story, Rising Storm, is very, very stupid. But as I said, I did actually laugh out loud a couple of times at some moments and some panels. So the artwork and the general premise, it's very, very stupid. It's like there's no rhyme or reason behind it. But I still laughed and I still thought it was very stupid and funny. The Yokohama Story, which is the second story, or the first one-shot story, is about a dentist who falls in love with a guy, and it's like the first time he's ever felt anything for anyone or anything in his life. So that was kind of funny as well. And then Killing Me Tenderly was awful. It was awful, and it was awful in the same way that Missing Road is awful, like sexual assault and making no sense. Like nothing happens and then boom, exposition. and reason why you should feel this. And then it just ends, and it's not like an actual ending. It just stops. It just stops. It doesn't actually end. And it just felt a little bit too much like some things that have actually happened in Japan. I know that some awful things have happened in Japan, and it felt like it was kind of based off of that, and that felt wrong. Very, very wrong. So yeah, it kind of wanted to take it down a notch just because of that one single one-shot story. So instead of it being a 2-star, I'd probably say it was like a 1.75 or a 1.5. Like, Killing Me Tenderly was not nice. Also, the art style is just so old-fashioned. It's not terrible, but it's distinctive, but it's just so old-fashioned. But I suppose another good point is that it is in no way censored. There's no censorship going on. This is like back in the day, lightsabers? What are they? Like full on dicks, no problem. So yeah, this was also a very bad read. I also did a second vlog video, I know, 2 in 1 month, and this was for Kodansha titles that I had got from NetGalley. Not just Kodansha, but predominantly Kodansha. And the first one was Doing His Best to Confess. This is by Satoru, Volume 1, and it is a shoujo from the male perspective. And I really enjoy shoujo from the male perspective. And so I am looking forward to My Love Mix-Up, which is supposed to be coming out soon in the UK. It's a little bit behind in America, so, you know, we have to wait a bit. I'm waiting. I will get it, hopefully, for a good price. But anyway, Doing His Best to Confess, another one from a boy's perspective. And this is about a boy who it has a cool, aloof appearance, but is actually... you know, quite sweet inside, and he has the hots for his classmate, and he would love to confess, but he's not actually doing a great job of it. It was so funny, so sweet, and a really quick read. I would definitely give this like 5 stars. I enjoyed it so much. It was really good. I then read You're My Cutie, Volume 1. This is not a shoujo that I would give 5 stars to. There were so many elements that I just kind of felt meh about, and it felt so sort of prosaic for shoujo, and there's things about it with, once again, sexual assault that just kind of is like not glossed over, which is good, but it still happens as a sort of, well, we're allowed to do that, and the arrogance of some of the characters, and that it's like, is this even real? No, of course not, it's a story, but that's what I hated about it, so it took me out, and I didn't really like that. So there were bits that I liked, but I don't think I would want to pick up the rest of this. It made me feel a bit icky. So yeah, You're My Cutie. Very nice artwork. The characters seem interesting, at least the male character did, but the rest of the women, I was like, really? Should you be representing women and girls, 2 women and girls in this manner? Because they all are awful. They're awful people. The only person who's good is the dad and him. Oh, now that's a story I'd like to see. Ooh. Okay, well, that's not going to happen, but still. Mine went to BL. So yeah, I would not be picking up volume 2 of this. Another one I read was The Girl, the Shovel, and the Evil Eye, which is a sort of isekai RPG type manga. A bit odd. I liked the characters. I actually liked how much I enjoyed the female sheep folk character, and I liked how it ended on a cliffhanger. I actually really enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of Greed Island arc from Hunter x Hunter, which is my favourite Hunter x Hunter arc. I love it. I like the RPG type element, so this was a good story. I enjoyed this volume very much. Another one which was a surprising hit for me was Love After World Domination. This is a comedy romance involving, I guess, like Power Rangers, but we can't call them Power Rangers. So like Rower Rangers. They have them. They have their name, the Gelatos, and the evil organization. But it's basically the bad guy and the good guy who are enemies to lovers. It's an enemies to lovers, and it's, you know, who doesn't like enemies to lovers? The comedy aspect was really good, the romance was sweet, and all of the extra characters were fun as well. I really enjoyed this first volume. Now, the last thing I read for that vlog was A Quick and Easy Guide to Asexuality, and this was the work that I felt most connected to because I have been slowly discovering more about asexuality and about myself, and this I had an emotional reaction to, and it was really sweet and I enjoyed it a lot. It's exactly what it says. It's a quick and easy guide to asexuality, and it does make me want to pick it up in physical when it comes out in March 2022. I am very grateful that this exists in the world. I wish it existed when I was younger, especially when I was a teenager, so that I could feel normal, because when you're an old lady and for the majority of your life you have been, made to feel less or broken or incomplete, and then this, little quick comic guide comes out and says, no, you're none of that, and you're perfectly valid, and, you are who you are, and there's more people like you in the world than the world lets you believe. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm very thankful to the authors, who were also really nice and reposted the video and enjoyed watching it. And once again, I will say I really like this, and I will be picking up a physical copy when it is released in March. Again, I'm going to talk about another video that I made, so once again I'll put a link up in the corner, and that was reading all of Lynn Van Doorn's work. So this year, for 2021, I've been reading almost everything that Lynn Van Doorn has written. She writes under a pen name, Virginia Kelly, along with Piper Scott, and because I was doing that video, I also was, putting some audiobooks on. And I thought, well, if I'm going for walks, I'm going for this, that, and the other thing, I'm doing some work, I may as well put on some audiobooks in the background. And it's like, yeah, I'll just listen to Bond again for the third or fourth time this year. And I only just read Bond, and the first time I read Bond was in August. It's at least once a month now. This isn't bad. But super enjoyable. I love Bond. Bond is probably my favourite, I mentioned in the video. I then listened to Mate. Mate is the third one. So yeah, it should have been Clutch, Bond, Mate, but I didn't listen to Clutch again, I don't think. Maybe I did. I haven't written it down, so I don't think I did. Then I think I went on to Magpie and listened to Magpie again. I've got the Whisper Sync, so it's quite good to read along with it if I want to sit down and have a cup of tea. Magpie is really good one as well. They've all got little different aspects, like some BDSM or different dynamics. So it takes a slightly different game romance trope, and that trope is in each of them. And they're just great. I really enjoyed it. I then listened to Finch. Finch and Bond are my two favourites. I just love Finch as well. Hugh is the stupidest dragon. I love him so much. He's just so stupid. And Finch, bless Finch. Finch is just the best. I love Finch. And the two of them get on really well because Hugh is completely incompetent and Finch does everything for him. Except when Hugh kind of organised the date, I thought it was the best date ever. New clothes, a spa treatment, fantastic. And it was so funny. I loved them. I love them so much. I think I've listened to Finch 2 or 3 times as well. 3? 4? I don't know. And then there was Peregrine, and of course, this one I've only listened to and read once. So I did a lot of audiobooks as well this month, and I really enjoyed Peregrine, but I've only listened to it once. It came out this year, so it is a fairly new one. I think it was in June or July, and this is the one that follows Perry and Sebastian, the dragons who've been mated the longest, and it kind of cuts between the 1500s and the present day, and the fact that a lot more of the backstory and interesting intrigue that sets up the next volume, the last volume. And of course I just was like, well, I'm making this video, may as well just put these on and have another listen and go for a walk and have another listen. And yeah, I did enjoy it. Now, because I was making the video, I also just thought I would reread Meet Me at Midnight just to make sure I totally understood what the story was before I talked about it. It's only 58 pages, and it is a really sweet, funny one, and it just is nonsense, full of nonsense, and I love it. It's really good. So yeah, I did read a lot more, a couple of times, rereads for Lynn Van Dorn, specifically for that video, and I enjoyed myself immensely. So another book that I read this month was The Sugared Game, and I really do wish that I had bothered to do a September reading wrap up, because I did read quite a lot in September, and one of the books that I read was Slippery Creatures, the first in the Will Darling Adventures book, and I think I got it for a really good price on Kindle, and I just loved it. I thought it was great, and it was part of the whole KJ Charles induction, as it were. I had heard a bit about KJ Charles, and I had, obviously with Audible, a Society of Gentlemen series that I could listen to with the Audible books, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. And so it's the second or third thing of KJ Charles I've read, because The Gentle Art of Fortune Hunting I've also read this year. Anyway, Slippery Creatures was great and introduced Will Darling, and Kim Secretan. I keep thinking this. I'm not pronouncing it. Arthur, but everyone calls him Kim. And I do love the setting and the atmosphere, because it makes me feel as though I'm watching an episode of Poirot. That, you know, Granada TV along with ITV dramas made, and I've watched so many episodes of every, you know, ITV murder mystery drama, that kind of thing, that I can 100% picture where this would be filmed and what kind of backdrop we would have and what the clothes would be like and who the actors might be. And I love that kind of sense that I can see this as a movie or a series or an episode. And why not? Why is this not? This would be perfect. This would be perfect. Oh, I'm getting all excited just thinking about, wouldn't it be perfect? Anyway, The Sugared Game is the second book, and that's what I read. I'm supposed to be talking about after Slippery Creatures. So Slippery Creatures finishes and you think, oh, this is like, it's not quite happily ever after. So this is the second one where it continues to still not be a happily ever after. But it feels like all of the fantastic things that were introduced in Slippery Creatures is once again in The Sugared Game, but just the saturation has been dialed up a little notch. Or, you know, it's like when the next song comes on, but the tempo has increased ever so slightly, and so the heart rate's going and the excitement is there, and everything that happens is very tight. It feels like it's been written even tighter and more organised. Because we don't have to introduce these characters. We can just get straight into the story and we know who they are and we like them already. And I do think that what was needed in the first book is not needed here, and that's why we've got a much more succinct and tight story, and it really does feel like, oh, it's snappy, there's lots going on. Not to say that the downtime and the emotional time, especially with a couple of moments, I'm like really like getting quite emotional about some of the things that are going on with Kim and Will, and when they're talking about what's going on in their past. And yeah, it was very, very nice, tender moments as well as some smexy moments. And overall, it just feels very real and sort of like stiff upper lip, but a stiff upper lip around your cock kind of thing. Which, yeah, if I had to describe what the Will Darling Adventures is like so far, it's like a stiff upper lip around your cock. That's probably what should be written on it as the side. But this is great and I love it, and I will need to read some more, and I will. So I also read To Trust Man on His Oath. This is a little extra that you get if you sign up for KJ Charles' website, newsletter, and so I got access to a couple of extra little short stories involving the Will Darling series. So this is like 2.5, and just kind of helped you to have a really cute little sweet moment between the two of them after. And it's extra, it's more. And of course, when you're in the Will Darling Adventures series, you just want more of those characters, and so it was good to have this little extra, and I enjoyed it a lot. Now, in the last KJ Charles book, The Sugared Game, that I read, there was the introduction of a character called DS, and DS is actually a character in one of her other books called Think of England, which is part of the England World series. It's just like 2 books, and it's the second one, and it is a book that involves this DS character. His name is Daniel De Silva, and another man called Captain Archie Curtis, and it's quite a bit far back. So the Will Darling series is in, I'm assuming, the 1920s, whereas this one is set about 20 years earlier, when the 2 characters are probably a bit younger, and it's Daniel De Silva when he's a bit younger. And I thought it would be good to read this as a sort of stopgap, because I just want to devour the Will Darling series, but it's only a trilogy. I say only, but there is like a couple of extras, and I did just read the little extra I think it is to take a man at his oath, and that was a lovely little sweet extra. It's like a 2.5. And so I really wanted to read a little bit more about the DS character as a sort of palate cleanser, and yet it's not, because now I just really, really, really want to read the next volume, which is called Subtle Blood. Oh, it was going to be my November. It was going to be my November reads. I was going to save it, and yet I've just been like, no, I'd like you. Yes, October TBR is right there, giving me the evil eye. And November TBR has just been like, hey. So anyway, I read Think of England. It's great. It's a really cute little story. Archie Curtis has unfortunately had some sort of military accident, in inverted commas, and he has lost a few fingers, and he's had a bit of an issue with his knee, and he ends up going to this big fancy country house and a big estate, but the house has been modernized, so it's got, electricity, and there is like phone lines and stuff, which, from like when is it supposed to be, like 1904, I think. It's like really fancy. So he is going to this country house, and there's like the whole cast of characters, and it seems as though he's there for a purpose, but they're supposed to be just to enjoy the country house and country pursuits like walking and shooting and that kind of thing. While he is there, he meets a man called Daniel De Silva, who is obviously foreign and a bit foppish and sort of effeminate, and kind of he's a poet. He's very rude, but he's also very beautiful, and this is something that Curtis is not really used to feeling about himself. So he gives him feelings that he's not entirely sure of, and it turns out that they might have a common cause. They might have something in common that they didn't think that they would have, and it turns out that there is a mystery. They've both got a mystery to solve, and it turns out the house may not be as safe for them or for anyone, but even more for them with the more that they get on. And it's very interesting and fun. It does get quite action-packed, and it did feel like I was just reading a really great story that was set in the past. It was a really great historically set novel. I loved it. It was great. I can't say like all these fantastic things. It was great. It just appeals to me in such a brilliant way because I really do like modern historical time periods. I don't want to go too much in my personal background, but I have spent several years at university studying things like this, so it really does just sing to my soul when I get a historically set story, but it's also male romance. Perfect, love it. But now that I've read this, I really want to read Subtle Blood, because apparently after Subtle Blood there's another little extra that involves all 4 characters. So like, I need to read Subtle Blood now. Like, I need to, really, don't hold me back. Now, of course, I didn't hold myself back. I just went on ahead and read the 3rd in the Will Darling Adventure series. This is obviously Subtle Blood by KJ Charles, and it's a really, really beautiful story. There were some moments in this that I just broke down in tears and wailed. Not necessarily because of like anything terrible happening, but because of just the emotion. I really enjoyed the Sugared Game, but there was a lot of action and there was a lot of shit that hit the fan at the end of it, and so the repercussions of that are definitely felt in Subtle Blood. So there's a removal of a couple of characters from the Sugared Game. They're no longer kind of around as much, and then of course it's a little bit more about the 2 of them kind of being thrown together and having a much more solid relationship, and yet at the same time the forces that be pulling them apart, because they're not supposed to be together. This is a time when they are not legally allowed to be together, and then there's family issues as well that come into play, and a lot more of this Zodiac organization that needs to be uncovered, and of course DS is kind of in there as well, in a way. There's a lot going on in Subtle Blood. There's a lot of toing and froing, backwards, kind of pedaling emotionally, and yet it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back when it comes to their relationship. I do enjoy the 2 of them so much, and it's like, you should just be together, for goodness sakes, enough already. But at the same time, I do love their back and forth and the adventure that they have together. This one was very much kind of Kim's story. It was very much about him and his family, and it was a very much a rip-roaring adventure with the different places, and it was kind of like, oh, what an idiot. One of the characters is kind of an idiot. Not gonna lie, but also a bit of a baddie, and it was quite interesting to see how things sort of panned out and things went. And there was, I can't really tell you because it would be giving it away. You just have to, because there's a bit of mystery in each of these, so that's why I'm not giving you too many of the plot points. Just to say that the 2 of them are very much like a team that keeps getting pulled apart and then pushed together and then pulled apart again. There's very much like, we are who we are and we should be together. I like that about it, the 2 of them. It's a really good story. It ended and I was like, oh. But then of course I knew I had the other extra, which was How Goes the World, which is both a Think of England and a Will Darling Adventure extra. So it's kind of 3.5 for the Will Darling Adventures, or 1.5 I guess for Think of England. And so I got to read that one too, and it's kind of a 2-parter because it's about Curtis and DS and the 2 of them being together, and then of course afterwards the 4 of them kind of having this kind of get together, and then Will and Kim having their kind of like conversation about it. And so it's kind of interesting to see how it's like a passing of the torch type thing, and I like that because Will Darling as a character is someone who I haven't really said very much about him. I haven't said much about either of them. They're kind of, it's like a spy. You know what I really like about it? It kind of reminds me a little bit of that Hitchcock, really old Hitchcock movie, The Lady Vanishes, because it's about people who seem unassuming at that time period, and also, you know, they are kind of like spies. It's great. So it's kind of like a spy thing. It's like James Bond before James Bond. And they have to stop things from happening, bad things from happening. So yeah, they are like James Bond, but in this time period. And I think that's very much what Kim's job is. He's kind of a man of mystery, and Will isn't. Will's, you know, like, is he from the Midlands? I was going to do a Yorkshire accent, but he's not. He's from, like, I think around the Midlands. But he's an ex-soldier, and he's been a soldier since, you know, the war happened, and that's all he's ever really known. And he's really good at killing people, but, you know, in peacetime, that's not really something you can sell, is it? Especially because there's a lot of other men who are really good at killing people, because they're the only ones that were left. They were the ones that survived the war. And, you know, if you survived, you were either really good at not getting killed, or you were really good at killing, and preferably both. So Will is, but he's managed to get, like, land on his feet, and he's kind of living a sort of unassuming life. But with Kim around, he gets to put into action a lot of these skills. And so, but for most of the books, he's kind of just poo-pooed as this extra guy. And yet he's the one that does all the heavy graft. He's the one that gets, you know, around. And that's what I really liked about Subtle Blood, was actually a lot of what had gone on in the previous two books, Slippery Creatures and The Sugared Game, kind of get thrown up in his face, and he does have to deal with it. And, you know, like, murder is murder. Especially in peacetime, it's just not killing. So yeah, I liked that he was able to, in this last little final, How Goes the World, that someone acknowledged his worth, and his worth as a killer. Which seems like a bad thing, but actually I thought was, like, really a valid thing to happen. So I really enjoyed this series. I liked KJ Charles as well. I then went on to read A Song for a Viking, which was actually part of the Think of England, but I hadn't realised that it existed, and so I found it. And that was just sweet. And that's like a little extra after Think of England, so I really should have read this right after Think of England. And so if you're going to read Think of England, I do recommend reading A Song for a Viking right afterwards, because it does have a sort of, like, happens within the story. And I like that that you got to see this from this other scene from a slightly different perspective. And that was really cute little one with DS and Curtis. They were really cute together in this. So yeah, KJ Charles is definitely a writer I will be reading a lot more from now on. She's up there with I'll need to keep an eye on what she's writing, and then go through her back catalogue. I've enjoyed Will Darling and Think of England and The Society for Gentlemen a little bit too much to ignore her back catalogue from now on. That's my goal, I think, going into 2022. More KJ Charles. Okay, so The Vampire's Club. This is by X Aratare. She has another pen name she goes by. She's got her own website. I've not signed up for it. But she also did, like, OEL manga, which I was always like, no thanks, because it's OEL. But I was interested in this because it was free, and I then found out that it was all on Kindle Unlimited anyway, so it didn't really matter. Anyway, this is a 7-volume novella series. It's complete in 7 volumes, so you can now just go and read the whole story together without any issues. But if you were reading it and not knowing that it was a novella series, which some people did, they then wrote bad reviews about it saying, oh, where's the rest of this story? You're only halfway through. And that's the issue. These are not standalones. You can't read volume 6 and understand. You need to read them in order. So they're not really like proper novellas. So they're not actually, it's not really a novella series. It's just a normal long story that's been broken up into 7 mini books. for ease, I guess, or because she wanted to make more money. But if you're doing it through Kindle Unlimited, it doesn't matter, because everything's free through Kindle Unlimited. But if you were buying it, then yes, it would cost you, and you'd be annoyed because you thought you were buying a novella, but you're not going to get a complete story in that 150 pages or 100 pages or 200 pages. You're going to get just the chunk of story. So it's like chapters rather than novellas. Just so you're, fully aware. I do feel like this is kind of a misselling to some people, but then if you do know that beforehand, you're forewarned. What I do like is the artwork on the cover. I really enjoyed whoever did the artwork, the cover designs. Well done, they're really nice. Anyway, this is about a vampire's club. I kind of feel like I got missold, and I started reading this thinking it was just going to be a 50-page story, and then got sucker punched into reading 7 volumes. So I didn't get to read all of the manga that I had planned to read at the end of October because I was busy reading the series because I got sucked into it. Anyway, it follows Lucas. Lucas Daniels is someone who has just moved to the area. He's not particularly happy about his situation in life. He's with his adopted mother. Their father died when he was 12, and the two of them have been scraping by, working hard, odd jobs and everything. And he's been the man of the house, and he's been helping protect his mother since the age of 12 by working paper rounds and fast food joints and things like that. He's now 21, and his mother has remarried a man that he does not like or get on with. And they have moved in with him. So he is very much in the situation where he wants to get out of that house, mainly because his mother, adopted mother, is very happy and in love, it appears, but the stepfather seems to have a weird flirtation with Lucas whenever his mother isn't around. So he kind of feels like his stepfather's hitting on him. So he definitely wants out of that house. He feels very uncomfortable, and he can't really feel like he can tell his mother this because she seems so happy, and he doesn't want to spoil her happiness. So he's on the lookout for a job, a new apartment, all that kind of stuff. And he comes across a club called Dyaval, which is Russian for devil. And he can see it, and he shouldn't be able to see it, and he walks right in, and he says this is a weird club, and he shouldn't be able to just walk right in. And he hears a voice in his head saying find the wolf, and he's hearing voices, and it's a bit odd. So it starts with a really interesting premise of someone who is supposed to be human coming into a vampire's club, and he shouldn't be able to. And the proprietor of the club is Constantine. He is a count, and he's known as the Wolf. There you go. And the two of them have an instant connection, and they don't understand why. Anyway, it's very interesting. I thought that the way that the first book 1 ended was really well done, and it made me want to read, because up until that point in the book 1 I was like meh, and then book 1 ended and I was like damn, now I want to know what happens next. And that kind of got me, and then by the end of it I was like, oh my god, will this never end? But I did think that the last 2 volumes were much more action-packed, and so it did make me look forward to reading to the end of it. But it was a big, long series. My favourite character was the Nomad, who had been the vampire that turned the wolf for Constantine, and I liked him and his childishness and pettiness the most. I thought he was great. I think him and another character, Gaia, who's a witch, I thought the two of them and their banter together was great. So I wish we had a little bit extra, just the two of them. Maybe there is, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I recommend this series to many people. But if you've got Kindle Unlimited and you want a vampire story, then maybe you might want to give it a go. It's longer. I think with an editor, it would be good. There were some sloppy grammar, spelling kind of issues that I do not like and I do not appreciate. I hate seeing it because I'm reading it for pleasure, not for, editing. So be fair. You got fair warning there. There are issues with this. But if you want a vampire story, then The Vampire's Club is on Kindle Unlimited. Now we were coming to the end of October. It was the 27th, I think, and I was not sure if this was going to happen, but then I spotted on the Kindle top 100, whatever it was, yaoi manga, that the 9th volume of The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window was available for £3.99, and so I went over to Sublime and it wasn't available yet. I was like, what? So I had to wait, because I always buy it from the Sublime website rather than from Kindle directly. But Volume 9 actually came out, even though Volume 8 was supposed to come out in March, then it came out in July, I think. So yeah, we have now 2 volumes, mainly because the anime is there, I think. But I did want to reread Volume 8 so that I was fully up to date before I went on to read Volume 9 and refresh what the story was, because it's the only volume I haven't reread multiple times. And so it was good to reread it and see this building tension and the sense of anxiety between the relationship with Mikado and Hayakawa. Yeah. And then I went on to Volume 9, which just made me feel even more anxiety. Oh my goodness. And the fact that it's more like a rescue mission, it seems like now. Oh, this is great. I love it so much. I'm wondering now when Volume 10 is going to be out. I have, as I'm recording this, I've only seen the first episode of the anime, and part of me is thinking I maybe should just forego it until the final volume is out by Sublime and then read the manga, because I love the manga, but the first episode didn't really do it for me in the same way as the manga does. The manga is like far superior in terms of the artwork and the atmosphere, and maybe even the voices as well. I didn't feel like it portrayed the manga in the same way. It felt cheap and like saturated, like I guess like a film has been put across, and it's not as sharp, it's not as interesting, it's not as visceral. Just from one episode I was like, so I think maybe I will wait until the 10th volume has been released by Sublime, and then I will watch the anime. What do you think? If you are a fan of The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window, if you've also watched the anime or watching the anime, do you think I should just wait? Because I don't want to watch the end. I don't know if the anime is going to have the whole complete story, and if that's the case, then I don't want to be spoiled for the manga. I'm just putting it out there. So if you think just wait, let me know, because I need some advice. Now, the second to last thing I read was actually what I had originally planned to do before the whole Vampires Club thing happened, and that was to read some supernatural titles on Futekia. I did read The Devil Has an Allergy to Fancy. This is just a 6-chapter series by Uri. This had just gone up on October the 30th, so it was just a new thing, so I thought may as well read it. It's supernatural, it's got devils and stuff, kind of like an Incubus type thing, but it's a kind of unicorn, and then like a unicorn that actually has 2 horns, like curly horns. Anyway, it's basically a very silly manga. I don't think it's great. I don't know what I gave this. I don't know if I would rate this more than like a 3. It was fair enough. There was some funny moments, but it was silly, but not funny enough to make me think that it was worth all the silliness. And it wasn't that smexy. It's only like a 1 chili. It just was a very silly little manga. I can't really say very much about it. I don't necessarily say that it's all that worth it. Yeah, definitely okay, and only that. And I was a bit disappointed that this was the one that I ended up reading, and I didn't really have much because it came out on the 30th, so I didn't have much time to read much more from Futekia this month. So yeah, well. Now, I have just recently set up a TikTok just so I can actually access things, I kind of put it off for a while. But there is someone called Megan Mako who has queer book recommendations. She's just known as Queer Book Recs on TikTok, so go check her out. And she was doing a sort of like, hey, for October you might want to have some spooky reads. And she recommended The Mysterious and Amazing Blue Billings by Lily Morton. And so I got the audiobook for this. And I was a bit concerned about the audiobook because of the voice actor. For the first like 20 minutes, it's him doing a very like London accent. And I'm like, oh god, no. And then he changed it after, but by like the third chapter or something, I was totally in. I was like fine with his accent, and now I love it. So I think the voice actor actually did a really great job because he can do lots of different accents, and it does change how I view the characters. And this book does go from Blue's perspective as well as being from Levi's perspective. Levi Black is a man who works as like a sort of cartoonist. He's been out of a relationship for a year. I think his ex-boyfriend was Marcus or something. His long-term relationship wasn't brilliant. He got cheated on in the end. His mother has passed away fairly recently, and he has inherited this house in York, the city of York, and it's in need of doing up, and it's a bit spooky. He arrives thinking, okay, fresh start, I've got my job that I can do anywhere, I've inherited this house because it was supposed to go to my mother, but she's passed away, so it comes to me. I can do this up, have a fresh start, and everything will be grand. And he sees this man with bright blue hair walking along the street and is just totally enamored with him. And it turns out that he is like a ghost walk tour, and he does like the tour of York, telling all of these ghost stories and stuff. But Levi is more interested in him because he might be able to help him with his house, because his house seems to be haunted. It takes about 6 months for the house to be done up, and by the time he's ready to move in, it's very clear that there is something wrong with this house. It's been done up, been done up to a great standard, but there's things wrong with it because like the heating will be turned off, or there'll be funny smells, or it will suddenly get incredibly cold and chilly, and the doors will slam and things like that. And so Blue Billings, who is this tour guide on a ghost walk, might be able to help Levi. And it just doesn't, it helps that Levi thinks he's a good looking young man. Blue is much more interesting, and Levi is much more interesting characters than I had thought that this story would be, fairly surface, and it's not. There's a lot more going on. This is a scary story. When it was recommended as this is a genuinely scary story, there are moments and you're like, whoa, oh my god, what's gonna happen? You are genuinely scared. The Mysterious and Amazing Blue Billings is a really excellent book. I'm so glad that I read it because I'm really glad because it's so genuinely scary. And I was like listening to it in the dark in my bed, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually scared. I don't know what's gonna happen next. It kind of felt like a completely different kind of BL because, it's gay romance, but there's also like a proper scary thriller story going on. So yeah, very much, it's very supernatural. Things go bump in the night in this story. They genuinely do. So yeah, there's like genuine scariness. For the longest time, I thought that Blue Billings might not actually be real because he doesn't seem it. And even now, I don't think he seems it. There is a second book in the series, and I will hopefully be reading that in November. I hope I'll do it straight away into November because I enjoyed this so much. I highly recommend The Mysterious and Amazing Blue Billings. I think I will have to pick up more from Lily Morton in the future as well, which is another name to put down on my list. I do thoroughly recommend this one. So that is everything that I read in the month of October. Absolutely loads. I think altogether it's around, 40 different titles, or 30, maybe. I don't know if the Vampires Club counts, so maybe around 30 something. Quite a lot of titles anyway. A lot of different forms as well. I read 8 in audiobook and only 6 physically, and so the majority of them were ebooks or in digital, like Futekia or on Kindle Unlimited. I also did 8 rereads, so obviously I reread The Night Beyond Volume 8, and I also did some more rereads when it comes to Lynn Van Dorn, just because it's just lovely and I really enjoyed it. There were obviously these 6 physical titles, and I can't say any of them were that stand out or amazing. The best one out of the group was Dick Fight Island, and even then it was okay. It wasn't fantastic. So yeah, physically I didn't read a lot of great works, but digitally I did, and in audio form I really did. I think I enjoyed everything that I listened to as an audiobook. I can't say that. I think everything I listened to was either a 4 or a 5 star. Yeah, pretty much 4 or 5 stars across the board when it comes to the audio. So I think Audible books are maybe a little bit more enjoyable for me, and it does mean I can get things done while I'm reading. So yeah, I enjoy that experience. But yeah, a really good reading month. That's like almost 40 books. I think it is 40 books in 1 month, which is amazing, which is really helping me towards my Goodreads reading challenge, or my 2021 reading challenge, which was to read 365. But we'll see how many more I can add in the month of November. I'm going to be really busy in November, so I don't think I'll be reading that many, and if I do, they will be proper full novels, not really short ones. So we'll see how I get on in November. I'm looking forward to reading on my TBR, as well as some extras and some mood reading as well. We'll see how I get on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. It's a really long video, as usual. And I make videos on mainly romance, yari manga, and all that good stuff. Thanks for sticking with me. Take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.